The Quran describes the various embryological stages in great detail. The Quran mentions in Surah Mu'minun, chapter number 23, verse number 12 to 14, that we have created the human being from a quintessence of clay. Then made it into a nutfah, a minute quantity of liquid. Then made the nutfah into alaqa, a leech-like substance. Then made the alaqa into mudga, that's a chewed-like lump. Then made the mudga into izama, bones. Then clothed the bones with lahem, that is flesh. And then we made a different creature. Glory be to Allah, who's the best to create. These three verses of the Quran describe the various embryological stages, the initial stages of development of a human being in the mother's womb in great detail.
Nutfah is mentioned 11 times. The Arabic word nutfah means a minute quantity of liquid.
Yes, this is what I've been telling you.
Sure.
There are no embryological details of any consequence in the Quran. I've read those sections of the Quran. There are no embryological details of any consequence in the Quran.
Him, unquote.
Aristotle also describes the emergence of bones and muscle in sequence.
Right.
Okay.
And it's like the Quran.
And it's like the Quran, which
Well, does Aristotle say the bones come first and then the flesh and the muscles? Does he say that? Are you sure?
Anybody that works.
I'll let you think about this.
Well, if you, are you? Is that what?
I'm not saying it. Can you? Are you sure?
Is that what the Quran specifically says?
Absolutely. This is exactly what the Quran says. Absolutely. This is exactly what the Quran says. Absolutely. This is exactly what the Quran says. Chapter 23.
Because you just demonstrated the Quran is wrong.
Yeah, but how?
That's not what happens in.
Well, this is what the embryologists are telling us. This is exactly what the embryologists are telling us.
No, they're not.
Exactly what the embryologists are telling us.
No, they're not. Yes, this is what I've been telling you.
Sure.
There are no embryological details of any consequence in the Quran. I've read those sections of the Quran. There are no embryological details of any consequence in the Quran. Yes, this is what I've been telling you.
Sure.
There are no embryological details of any consequence in the Quran. I've read those sections of the Quran. There are no embryological details of any consequence in the Quran. Yes, this is what I've been telling you.
Sure.
There are no embryological details of any consequence in the Quran.
Exactly what the embryologists are telling us.
No, they're not.
Okay. Let me tell you what Keith Moore said. I mean, you can disagree with him.
He doesn't like Keith Moore.
I don't know why you don't. What he said on the page number 364A of his book, The Human Embryo.
Firstly, the page to which you refer was written not by Keith Moore, but by Abdul Majid Azadani. Any page in the book you referred to that ends with an alphabetic letter, page 364A, for example, is so. Furthermore, I actually contacted Keith Moore via his publisher, who told me that Muslims had taken his words out of context.
And to my surprise, all I found is that it jumps to the 6th edition, it jumps to the 5th edition, and then all the way back to the 2nd edition. So the 3rd edition that Muslim miracle seekers are always claiming that mention all the Quranic verses somehow does not even appear on his CV. Why is our Dr. Moore keeping his own publication when everything else is there in his CV? Why does he keep this specific one a secret? Why does he keep his 3 years in Saudi Arabia a secret when everything else is there? So what is my conclusion after having looked into what kind of a person our Dr. Moore actually is? Well, number one, he's not a scientist. Number two, he is not really a member of all these prestigious associations, councils and unions. And number three, some really important facts are missing from his CV. The Royal Medical Association of Canada is made up. The Council of the Union of Biological Sciences does not have any record of him. The International Academy of Cytology does not list him on their pages. The Union of American Anatomists is something that is made up. The Union of North and South American Anatomists is also just made up. Now, the fact that the years that he spent in Saudi Arabia do not appear on his CV are highly suspicious. So I am very sorry, I do not agree with any of these claims as to the person of Dr. Moore. As always,
and I'm saying that no, that what you find in the Quran is an extremely primitive science. There was nothing more than the common man could have learned from, general interactions with learned society at the time.
I think the really sad thing here is you're missing the enormous picture to focus on the pixel. Yes. I want you to think for a moment about the creator of the entire universe.
Yeah.
Doesn't give a rat's ass whether you do anything good or bad in your life. All that matters, the sole criteria, is that you are gullible enough to follow the story of the least credible illiterate proponent you can follow. That's the sole criteria, and that's all.
No, that's not true.
Okay, if that's not it, then an unbeliever could be saved. An unbeliever would not go to hell.
That's true.
If all unbelievers go to hell, then the sole criteria is gullibility.
In conclusion, it is saliently clear that Hamza Andreas Sortsis and Adnan Rashid are wrong, and that the Quran contains factually incorrect embryological information plagiarized from Hellenic science. It further follows that the Quran is an erroneous document, P.Z. Myers and Aaron Ra win, and the embryological miracle in the Quran is utterly refuted.